You've saved $50,000 for your down payment. You're pre-approved. You found the perfect house. And then your lawyer sends you a bill for $18,000 that you didn't see coming. This is a very scary moment for first-time home buyers, and I'm here to help you avoid it. Today, I'm going to walk you through every single cost you need to consider for closing day, not just your down payment. I'm talking about other costs that can be a big surprise. Let's start with the single biggest closing cost in the province of Ontario, and that is land transfer tax. So what is land transfer tax? It's a tax you pay to the provincial government to transfer the name out of the current owner's name into your names. The reason the home buyer is the person that pays the land transfer tax is because the seller is paying the brokerage fees. The land transfer tax is based on the purchase price of the home. The more expensive the home, the higher the tax. And by the way, if you live in the city of Toronto, which is its own municipality, that tax is doubled because you're going to pay the same amount of tax for municipal land transfer tax. Now, there is some good news. If you are a first-time buyer, you can get a rebate of up to $4,000, and some lawyers will actually process that for you on closing day and just deduct the $4,000 from the total that's owing. So, for example, let's say you're buying a home in Hamilton for $750,000. If you go to the land transfer tax calculator on my website, you'll see that the land transfer tax owing is $11,475, but you're a first-time buyer, so you can deduct $4,000 from that, and your land transfer tax becomes $7,475. That's a big number. It's due on closing day, and you can't add it to your mortgage. Still, even with the first-time buyer land transfer tax rebate, it's still a lot of money. And if you don't know about it before closing, it's a very painful surprise. So the next closing cost you want to think about is legal fees. In Canada, you need a real estate lawyer to close on a property. What do? They do a lot of things. They review your paperwork. Remember that their job is to protect you. They make sure there's no issues with the property's title, and therefore it can be transferred into your name. They handle the transfer of ownership itself. They make sure your mortgage is registered properly. And of course, they charge a fee. In Hamilton, you're looking at somewhere between $1,100 to $1,500 for legal fees. Now, that fee includes something called disbursements. This is something that your lawyer will pay for you on your behalf. Things like title insurance, title searches, registering the transfer document, courier fees if needed, all of those things. So when you're shopping around for a lawyer, make sure that their quote to you includes more than just the fee. Make sure it includes the expected disbursements as well. And here's a little tip for you. My advice is don't choose a lawyer strictly based on what they charge. You want a good lawyer. You want someone that's really got your back in the transaction. And the best lawyers in real estate are the ones that are going to spot an issue before it becomes a big problem. Spend the money on a good lawyer. Okay, so this next one is not technically a closing cost, but it is a cost that you need to consider, and that is home inspection. Skipping a home inspection, which would cost you $500 or $600, so you can save a little money, you don't want to do that. There are very few situations in which I do not recommend a home inspection where you really don't need one, and typically it's because the house is still under Tarion new home warranty. If the house is not under warranty, I always recommend getting a home inspection. It's worth every dollar. You can use any problems the home inspector identifies with the house as a point of negotiation with the seller to see what they're prepared to fix before closing. If you don't know about these things before you buy the house, that means that you're kind of stuck with those problems once you move in, and that can be expensive. The cost of a home inspection ranges depending on who you use. Somewhere between $400 and $700 is a very good range. They mostly average about $500. If the home inspector finds big problems, this is a discussion that you would have with the seller before you firm up on that agreement. You can ask for a price reduction, you can ask for them to fix it, or you can walk away from the house altogether. But if you don't get a home inspection, then you don't know. Those are some of the biggest considerations, but there's some other costs that you should know about. One is title insurance. Title insurance protects you from problems to do with the title of the property. Things like fraud, errors in the title, any liens from previous owners. In other words, money owing. Title insurance is a one-time premium, somewhere between $250 and $400. Most of the ones I see are around $300. Your lawyer's going to recommend it to you, and I definitely recommend you take it. Another expense to consider is an appraisal fee. Now, this is not something that would happen on closing day, so it's not technically a closing cost, but it's still an expense that you want to think about. Before your bank or lender approves your mortgage, they want to know that you didn't pay too much for the house, and they also want to do a risk assessment on the mortgage that they're about to give you. So they hire a professional licensed appraiser to assess the property. Sometimes the lender will cover this cost. Sometimes you have to pay for it. If you do have to pay for it, I see a a big range, also around $300 to $500. One of the things that you want to make sure you're asking your bank or mortgage broker at the time your mortgage is approved is who pays for the appraisal, because once you're locked in, it's too late to negotiate. You also want to think about property tax as an adjustment on closing. Let's say, for example, the seller paid their property taxes for the full year and you're buying the house preparing to close in August. That means you have September, October, November, and December of property taxes that the seller has paid. So basically, you're reimbursing the seller for the taxes they already paid. Your lawyer calculates this for you and it will show up in something called the Statement of Adjustments. If you can get your hands on the Statement of Adjustments before you go in to sign the documents, that is ideal because that buys you a little more time in case there are surprises on there that you hadn't considered. I saved this next one for last, and that is mortgage insurance. So if you're putting less than 20% down on a property, anywhere between 5% and 19.9%, you will need to get mortgage insurance. This is usually provided by CMHC, which is the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. This insurance, even though you're paying the premium for this insurance protects the bank if for any reason you default on the mortgage. It's not optional. It's not something that you can say no to. If you have less than 20%, you do need to get the CMHC mortgage insurance. The premiums, though, clearly will depend on how close you are to the 20% or how far away. You have two options here. You can pay that on closing day, or you can add it to your mortgage and pay for it over a longer period of time. Most people choose to add it to their mortgage because that's a big nut to have to come up with. But here's the catch. If you add it to your mortgage, you're paying interest on it for the life of the loan. Even if you do decide to add your CMHC insurance to your mortgage, you still need to pay the tax on that at closing. So that would be somewhere around $2,300 for our example. So now I want to put this all together for you. Let's say you're buying a $750,000 house in Hamilton with a 5% down payment. Here's what you're paying. Down payment, $37,500. Land transfer tax after considering the first-time home buyer's rebate, $7,475. Let's say your legal fees are $2,000. Title insurance is $300. Appraisal, $400. Property tax adjustments, let's just say $800. And the tax on your mortgage insurance, $2,280. Now, if you include the CMHC mortgage insurance, that's about $51,000 in upfront costs. But remember, $37,500 of that is the down payment that you were expecting anyway. Having said that, this is why it's so important to understand some of these extra expenses. Your down payment is only part of the equation. It's not the only number you need to come up with. It is important to have this money set aside for the extra expenses. So your best defense here is to know as much as you can in advance. If you're planning to buy a home in Hamilton, Burlington, Caledonia, any of these surrounding areas, I can help walk you through this for your specific scenario. I'll give you a clear breakdown of what you need to budget for, connect you with some great lawyers, home inspectors, mortgage brokers. I have a whole team. So feel free to get in touch with me to learn more so I can make this process as smooth as possible for you. If you found this video helpful, please remember to like, subscribe, share, and hit those post notifications. It really helps my channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.